supply means there may be some problem in supply of the nutrients. Supply means how they are supplied from different sources in soil and how they are made available to the plant. There may be some problems in the availability of the nutrient and there may be some problem in the supply of the nutrients. So we are going to discuss this topic to understand the cycling of the nutrients in the soil, how the nutrients are cycled. Cycling means how do they enter into the soil and how do they go out of the how they go out of the soil. That is known as cycling. Means just entry into the soil and they are lost from the soil, whatever way they are lost. So this is known as cycling. Discuss the factors influencing supply of mineral nutrients into the soil solution. What are the factors that influence the supply of nutrients to the plant? You can say to the plant or into the soil solution. So some terminology, adsorption, taking up or uptake of molecules or ions. I discussed it before. Base saturation, fraction of the total exchangeable cations that are bases, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Buffering capacity. So this buffering capacity is used in different aspects. One aspect is with respect to soil. So buffering capacity with respect to soil is the ability of a soil to resist change in concentration or activity of its constituent and its properties in response to external intervention. So this is known as buffering capacity. Means it resists against the change. Many times, for example, if you add a particular fertilizer, if you add ammonia forming fertilizer, ammonium forming fertilizer, or acidic fertilizer in soil, so they will not make your soils acidic so quickly. It will take centuries to make your soil acidic because soil has very high buffering capacity. It resists against the change. You add whatever you want, but it will not like to change. So soil has very high buffering capacity. This is buffering capacity of soil general. But one buffering capacity is also there, which is with respect to the nutrients. Nutrients means relationship between the soil solution and the sources of nutrient supply. How it is replenished, how the soil solution is buffered. That buffering is different. Buffering or capacity of the soil with respect to nutrients is different. Then diffusion, ions in the soil medium move from a point of higher concentration to low concentration. Ion atoms, group of atom or compound which are electrically charged or due to loss or gain of electrons. These are ions. Nutrient mobility, ease with which nutrients move from one place to another in soil. Nutrient mobility means ease. Is it easy or is it difficult? So ease with which nutrient move from one place to another. Soil mineral, mineral that is usually a constituent of the soil or natural inorganic compound with certain intrinsic soil properties. Soil solution, you should know it. The liquid phase of the soil which contains dissolved nutrients. These are the dissolved nutrients in the liquid phase, in the water plus nutrients in plant available form. They are in available form. Available nutrient, portion of any element or compound in soil that can be readily absorbed and assimilated by growing plants. The such forms of the nutrients can be easily taken up by the plant. So such forms are called as available nutrient. Base forming cations. Cations forming strong bases by reaction with hydroxyl are your base forming cations. Like potassium ion, it is a base forming cation. So it can combine with hydroxyl. Crumby structure, a soft, porous, more or less rounded natural unit of structure from 1 to 5 millimeter in diameter. Crumby structure is considered as the best one. Exchangeable ions, positively or negatively charged atoms, their groups held on surface of a solid particle by attraction to charges of the opposite sign and which may be replaced by other like charged ions in the soil solution. exchangeable cations. So they are mostly on the exchange sites. Heavy metals described before, heavy density, they have density, or metals having density of 4 megagram per per meter, or it may be per cubic meter, I think, per cubic meter or greater densities. Example are cadmium, cobalt, chromium, copper, iron, etc. Isomorphous substitution. Isomorphous substitution, this is in clay mineralogy. You need to see the structure of silicate clays and those kind of things. The replacement of one atom by another of a similar size in a crystal lattice without disrupting or changing the crystal structure of the mineral. They exchange. You have some internal spaces in the minerals or in the clay minerals, and they substitute, certain ions substitute each other. That is your isomorphous substitution, because their sizes are same. Mineral nutrient, an element in inorganic form used by plants or animals. Trace elements. So many times we say micronutrients as trace element. So we should not call micronutrients as trace elements. So trace elements are the elements present in Earth's crust in concentration less than 1000 milligram per kg. This is the definition of trace elements. This is not micronutrient. If referring to plant nutrients, the term micronutrient is preferred. Now, we are going to discuss the problem of supply and availability of nutrients. Problem of supply and availability of nutrients. So let us see what are the sources to supply nutrients or mineral nutrients in soil. So for any nutrient that has to come in solution, that has to come in available form. So we should know what are the sources of supply, mineral nutrient supply. Plants take up nutrient mostly from soil solution. So it is taken from the soil solution when they are dissolved in water. It has a small fraction of total nutrients. So nutrient in solution has very small fraction of total nutrients in the soil. Nutrients removed by, mostly the nutrients are removed by this pool depleted. Is the nutrients are taken up by the plant roots from the soil solution, and then the soil solution will not have sufficient level of those nutrients because it has been depleted of nutrients, and these nutrients are readily replenished into soil solution by cation exchange. So first, there is shortage of nutrients in the soil solution due to uptake by the plants, and then this shortage is filled by or replenished by some other sources. Other sources will supply back nutrients to the soil solution, and they may come from sources. So sources of mechanism of nutrient supply to soil solution. The nutrients will be replenished in soil solution by soil minerals. Some minerals can supply nutrients on their breakage. Exchangeable cations or anions or cations that are there on the humus or clay colloids, they can replenish the nutrients in soil solution. And there may be certain chemical compounds, like you apply fertilizer. They can also make available nutrients into soil solution. And organic matter on decomposition releases nutrients, and some of them can come to the soil solution. So these are the 4 sources of nutrients in soil that supply nutrients into the soil solution. So you can see this picture, soil solution is in the center, and where from the nutrients are coming into soil solution or where they are going out. So from soil solution, the nutrient can leach down. The leaching, drainage, or surface runoff can happen. These available nutrients can leach down from soil solution because they are free. They are free in the solution, and then the nutrients can come into the soil solution from surface exchange of cations and anions. So it can come from your colloids, soil colloids. This source is your soil colloids, clay minerals, and your humus. Then next is mineral solubility or weathering. certain parent mineral in soil, they can weather and they can also supply the nutrients to the soil solution, but they may be the last one. And also nutrients are removed by the plants from the soil solution. So you can see what is happening, what is the fate of nutrients in soil solution, where from they are coming and where they are going away. Organic matter or soil organism can supply nutrients to the soil solution, and they can take back also these nutrients. They can take back. Soil organic matter or soil organism can take some nutrients from the soil solution back also. They are giving to the soil solution and they can take also. It depends upon the balance, because most of these such kind of reactions in soil are reversible also, are reversible. So now you see these nutrients can be divided into three different forms or three different mobility groups: readily, moderately, or slowly available nutrients. Readily means quickly, moderately means between these two, and slowly available. So absorption of nutrients depends upon their forms. Definitely you need nutrients in forms also. Certain forms are preferred by plants. So phosphorus, for example, is speedily available as S2PO4. Monocalcium, monophosphate. This HPO4 is relatively less available than S2PO4. But unavailable rapidly in tricalcium phosphate or apatite form. So forms are important, particularly in case of phosphorus. Nutrients in soil solution are rapidly available. Nutrients on exchange complex are also available for absorption, but not quite as readily available as from the soil solution. So if option is available for the plant to get nutrients from soil solution, then it will not like to take nutrients from exchangeable sites. Now you see the case of phosphorus, how different forms are available, relatively available to the plants. So first column is inorganic phosphorus in soil, then source and availability to the plants. So you see the availability is lowest from lowest to highest. As you go down in this table, the availability from lowest to highest. So you can see mineral phosphorus and very strongly adsorbed phosphorus. So it is precipitated phosphorus or fixed phosphorus, calcium, iron, aluminum phosphate minerals, and very strongly adsorbed phosphorus. So availability is very low. Strongly adsorbed phosphorus. Phosphorus adsorbed to clay and other minerals surfaces, availability is low, but more than the mineral P. Then weakly adsorbed phosphorus. This is weakly adsorbed phosphorus. Phosphorus adsorbed to clay and other mineral surfaces. Availability is high. And solution P, S2PO4, HPO4. So availability is highest. So if you go down this table, availability is increasing. So you can see, depending upon the form of phosphorus, the availability is changing. Now, cycling of nutrients in the soil, because cycling makes your nutrients available to the plant, cycling of the nutrients. And it is also responsible for losing the nutrients from the soil. So the following points are important in cycling of nutrients in the soil. Number one, plant uptake reduces the amount of nutrient in soil solution. As I told you before, that the nutrients are in available form in the solution, and they are continuously taken up by the plant roots. So nutrients adsorbed on minerals or humus get dissolved and enter into the soil solution. So once you get less availability of nutrient in soil solution, they will be replenished from the minerals or humus. Exchangeable ions will enter into soil solution. Nutrients added as minerals or organic manure increase the concentration in soil solution. They also increase. And minerals in soil dissolve to buffer the soil solution. I've already told you the sources. Also, the soil organic matter undergo decomposition and supply the nutrients into the soil solution. Soil microbes absorb nutrients from the soil solution In the beginning, they take up nutrients from the soil solution and release nutrients back into the soil solution after their death. The biological nitrogen fixation also adds some nitrogen in soil, and part of that nitrogen will reach the soil solution. Nutrients, of course, are removed by the crop, so they are lost by the crop. A large fraction of certain nutrients are lost by erosion, leaching, runoff. Means losses of nutrients are there and uptake of nutrients. So this is the way the nutrients are lost from the soil. Now, this is very important part of today's lecture. You need to pay much attention to this section. Factors influencing the supply of mineral nutrients. Supply of mineral. What are different factors that affect the supply of minerals? Supply of mineral nutrients into the soil solution or to the plants. So we need to understand mobility of nutrients in soil. Nutrients are classified into two: mobile nutrients in soil and immobile nutrients in soil. We will see cation and anion exchange capacity of the soil is very, very important. Higher the cation exchange capacity, higher is the availability. Base saturation in soil also similar to cation exchange capacity. Buffering capacity of the nutrients, soil pH, soil organic matter, and its decomposition rate by microbes, and physical condition of the soil. So these are the important factors. However, almost all the soil factors or soil properties will affect the nutrient availability or supply to the plant. But I have just taken some selected factors which have more influence on the supply of the mineral nutrients. Now see the mobility of nutrients in soil. So this is the first factor that affect the supply of nutrients. So mobile nutrients in soil, there may be two kinds of nutrients, mobile and immobile or less mobile. So mobility varies with the ions. Certain ions like nitrate, sulfate, chloride, and boric acid is not ion, it is boric acid as such. They are not strongly attracted to the exchange sites. They are not strongly attracted. They are generally soluble in soil and readily move through the root zone with water. So they move very fast with the water. If water is going down, leaching, they will leach. If water is getting up into the soil by capillary move or some other move, or there is side movement, lateral movement of water, they will move along with water very easily. So such nutrients are mobile nutrients. So mobile nutrients within the whole soil volume occupied by the plant root system. So depending upon the moisture content, they are almost uniformly distributed in the soil profile. They are available for transport to the root in percolating and transpiration water. So they can move with the percolating water as well as transpirational water, means upward movement of water or maybe lateral movement of water. Relative mobility of each nutrient depend on soil pH also, temperature, moisture, soil texture, type of clay, and organic matter content. So other factors which are responsible for the supply of mineral nutrients will also affect the mobility, like soil pH, temperature, moisture, soil texture, etc. Now, immobile nutrients in soil. Immobile nutrients interact with mineral and organic matter surfaces, are less soluble, do not readily move through the root zone. Therefore, they are immobile nutrients. So they interact with mineral and organic matter, means they are on the organic matter or on the mineral matter or inside them. Relatively immobile in soil, these are relatively immobile in soil. So immobile doesn't mean they do not move at all. They are less mobile actually. Immobile nutrient here means they are relatively less mobile. So relatively immobile in soil, and plant roots access these nutrients from a small volume of soil surrounding individual roots. So because they are not uniformly distributed in soil like in case of mobile nutrients, here they are concentrated mainly on the soil colloids. So soil plants get these nutrients from a very small volume of the soil. Plants create a small zone around the roots, a small zone around the root that has very low concentration of these immobile nutrients due to plant uptake. The concentration, the concentration gradient allows diffusion to transport nutrients that are further away from the root surface towards the root. So you have seen it, how the diffusion supplies nutrients to the plant roots. If the soil has a high buffering capacity for an immobile nutrient, then the solution can be replenished and diffusion continues. Means soil solution actually, here the meaning is soil solution have high buffering capacity. Then there will not be shortage of immobile nutrients. Otherwise, the plant will face shortage because they do not move actually. So if the soil has high buffering capacity for an immobile nutrient, then the solution can be replenished, otherwise not. With a low buffering capacity, solution concentration and diffusion ultimately decreases, causing a nutrient deficiency. So nutrient deficiency is uh, quite often common for immobile nutrients. So now the important points of nutrient mobility can be summarized. Again, the mobile anions like sulfate, nitrate, chloride quickly move through root zone with water. On the one hand, they are quickly available to the plant, but on the other hand, they are liable to be leached down, they are liable to be lost. The mobile nutrients are available within the whole soil volume uniformly. The immobile nutrients interact with exchange surfaces and are less soluble and move slowly through the root zone to the root surfaces. Ammonium, potassium, calcium, magnesium are more soluble and mobile compared to micronutrient cations and H2PO4 and molybdenate. Mobility, summary continues. The knowledge of nutrient mobility is useful in deciding the nutrient management practices. This knowledge is very, very important. So, for example, nitrogenous fertilizer being mobile in soil could be broadcast applied on the soil surface or applied in beds with almost similar results. So, many times you have seen that nitrogen fertilizer can be broadcast also because of their mobility. If they are applied on the surface, they can reach the plant soil with the water. However, the phosphorus fertilizer should be placed in bands in the root zone as phosphorus is comparatively less mobile in the soil. So the concept of mobility in soil helps in the management of nutrients. Now, next factor. So you have seen the mobility is affecting the availability or supply of nutrient to the plant roots. So here, cation and anion exchange capacity of the soil also affect the supply of mineral nutrients. Supply of mineral nutrients to the soil solution and to the plant roots. So the clay and humus, as you know, are making the soil colloids. Colloids or exchange sites. Absorbing the cations and certain anions. Cation and anion exchange occurs in soils between the soil solution and exchange sites. Exchange sites means soil colloids. So ion exchange is a reversible process. Means if there is deficiency of ions or particular ion in the soil solution, it will come from the exchange sites and vice versa also. If there is shortage of ions on the exchangeable sites, they can go back from solution to the exchange site also. So ion exchange is a reversible process. Cation exchange is more important as the cation exchange capacity is much larger than the anion exchange capacity. So in nutrient availability, this cation exchange capacity is more important than anion exchange capacity. But that does not mean that anion exchange capacity is not important. It becomes more important in case of acidic soils. This process enhances availability and retention of plant nutrients, this cation exchange process. Soils dominated by oxides of aluminum have positive sites in acidic soils. So in acidic soils, you have more of oxides of aluminum, and anions can be absorbed and resorbed from them. Nitrate and chloride are weakly held at the positive sites of soil colloids. So as you know that soil colloids have both negative and positive charges. And negative charges are much higher than the positive charges. But these colloids also have some sides which are positive. So these anions are attracted to those positive sides of the colloids. So this nitrate and chloride are weakly held at positive sites of the soil colloids and more likely to be found in soil solution. Phosphate and sulfate are strongly bound to the exchange sites is compared to other monovalent anions. Anion exchange capacity increases as soil pH decreases. Anion exchange capacity is much higher in acidic soils. Now, cation and anion on soil exchange surface. So we are dealing with, up to now, we are dealing with cation exchange capacity as a factor of nutrient supply. So all these sections are related to their subject only. Now see the cations and anions on soil exchange surface, how they are behaving. So except for aluminium and sodium, most of the exchangeable cations are plant nutrients. The other cations are plant nutrients. In acidic soils, the principal cations are, or dominant cations are, principal cations are aluminum, hydrogen, calcium, magnesium, and potassium, whereas I think there is some mistake here. It cannot, this calcium and magnesium and potassium should not be here. It could be aluminum and hydrogen. So aluminum and hydrogen dominate in acidic soils, and in neutral soils and basic soils, you have calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium as dominating cations. So please correct this mistake. Cations are adsorbed to the cation exchange capacity with the different adsorption strength. The strength of adsorption to the exchangeable site is different. It varies with the ions, influencing the ease with which cations can be replaced or exchanged with other cations. Now, for most minerals, the strength of cation adsorption is generally represented by aluminum, hydrogen, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. So sodium will be the easy to be removed from the cation, easy to be exchanged. Next easiest one is ammonium, which is almost equal to potassium. And next difficult to exchange is magnesium, calcium, hydrogen, and aluminum. So generally you can see the strength of adsorption is increasing as you are increasing the valency, as you are increasing the valency. But in case of hydrogen, you see some problem. Hydrogen has one valency, but it is more strongly adsorbed to the exchange sites than calcium, magnesium, sodium, and ammonium, etc. We'll see the reason why it is so. So you can see the ease with which these nutrients can be dissolved. The desorption will be fastest for ammonium. Desorption will be fastest for potassium. And likewise, so you can go into the reverse order. So this kind of nature affects the availability of the nutrients, in the soil solution. The properties of the cations determine the strength of adsorption or ease of desorption. The hydrogen ion is unique because of its very small size and high charge density. It has got high charge density. Thus, its adsorption strength is between aluminum and calcium. I think some of you might be knowing the charge density. What is charge density? High charge density.
Charge per unit volume.
Pardon?
Charge per unit volume.
Okay, good. So others might have also got the meaning of charge density. The adsorption strength for cations, with similar charge is determined by the size or radii of the hydrate cation. Now you can have the charge of two ions equal, but now some dissolve fast, some dissolve slowly. So the adsorption strength for cations with similar charge, say it is sodium or it is potassium or ammonium, they have similar charge, is determined by the size or radii of the hydrated ions. cation. Means then the radii will decide whether the radii is more or less. So as the size of the hydrated cation increases, the distance between cation and the clay surface increases. As the size of the hydrated cation increases, means hydrated cation has more size, so its desorption will be easy, and less size, it will be more tightly absorbed. So larger hydrated cations cannot get as close to the exchange surface as smaller cations, resulting in decreased strength of adsorption. So more hydration means less, they will be easily removed from the exchangeable site. Less hydration, they are tightly bound to the exchangeable sites. So now we are just dealing with the cation. That was the knowledge of the cation exchange surface and removal of cations or anions. Now cation exchange capacity continues. Cation exchange capacity is one of the most important soil chemical properties influencing nutrient availability and retention in soil. So this cation exchange capacity is the most important soil property. Soil cation exchange capacity represents the total quantity of negative surface charge. It is negative surface charge on minerals and organic matter available to attract cations in the soil solution. So it is expressed as milliequivalents of charge per 100 gram of over dry soils, milliequivalent per 100 gram. Now you have got some new unit, that is, what is other unit of this cation exchange capacity?
Sir, centimole proton plus per kg.
Yeah, yes, centimoles per kg. The milliequivalent unit is used instead of mass because cation exchange capacity represent both the milliequivalent per 100 gram of negative charge and the total milliequivalents per 100 gram of cation adsorbed to the cation exchange capacity. Now we go to the anion exchange capacity. Likewise, this is also important. Anions in soil solution are adsorbed to positively charged sites on clay mineral edges and organic matter. Anion exchange may also occur with hydroxyl groups on the hydroxyl surface of kaolinite. It can exchange. Displacement of hydroxyl from hydrous iron and aluminum oxide is also an important mechanism for anion exchange, particularly in highly weathered soils of the tropics and the subtropics. Anion exchange capacity increases as soil pH decreases, means acidic conditions. Further, AEC is much greater in acid soil, higher in 1:1 clays and those containing iron and aluminum oxides than in soil with predominantly 2:1 clays. So this topic is very, very important, and students are advised to read in detail this cation exchange capacity and anion exchange capacity from the Brady book, Nature and Properties of the Soil. Fantastically written. And without this knowledge, your knowledge in plant nutrition shall remain incomplete, or in soil fertility. And Mount Morillo nitric minerals usually have an AEC of less than 5 milliequivalent per 100 gram, whereas kaolinite can have an AEC as high as 40 milliequivalent per 100 gram of soil at pH 4.7. So this is very, very important. You can see that Mount Morillo nitric minerals have low anion exchange capacity, that is 5 milliequivalent per 100 gram, and kaolinite have much higher, that is 40 milliequivalent per 100 gram at acidic pH 4.7. So one question is usually asked, one quiz question is asked, that at pH 4.7, how much anion exchange capacity is there in Mount Morillo lined clays. Anions such as chloride and nitrate may be adsorbed, although not to the extent of H2PO4 and sulfate. H2PO4 is orthophosphate. Am I right? What we call this H2PO4? What is the name of this H2?
Orthophosphate monovalent ions. Orthophosphate monovalent.
Orthophosphate.
Orthophosphate monovalent.
And for HPO4? If it is HPO4, then divalent.
4 minus 2.
Bivalent or
Yes, sir.
divalent? Orthophosphate
HPO4
divalent.
minus 2 is divalent.
Divalent.
HPO4 minus 2.
Okay, H2PO4 minus 2 is divalent. I think
No,
I'm
sir.
confused.
H2PO4 minus is orthophosphate monovalent ion. HPO4 minus 2 is orthophosphate divalent ion.
Correct, correct. Thank you. Now I learned it. I might be knowing long before, but I forgot. So H2PO4. Similarly, you have monocalcium phosphate and dicalcium phosphate. In monocalcium phosphate, it is monovalent and divalent there. Okay, thank you. The order of adsorption strength is S2PO4, and then sulfate, then nitrate, then chloride. Means chloride will be easily dissolved, easily removed, nitrate will be easily removed, then sulfate will be difficult to remove, and S2PO4 will be more difficult to remove from the exchange sites. The meaning is like this. The order of adsorption strength is S2PO4, sulfate, nitrate, chloride. So please try to remember such kind of sequences. They are important. Then you see this cation and anion exchange capacity of the soil. The all as general picture showing you the cation and anion exchange. So in this case, you can start from the top. Plant roots. Plant roots, they take up the anions and cations from the soil solution. The next box is soil solution. It contains nutrients in anions and cation forms, and that is your available form. So nutrients are taken up by plant roots from the soil solution, and where from the nutrients are coming into soil solution, they may come from different sources, but mainly from soil colloids, clay, and humus. So they will replenish the nutrients into the soil solution, which is known as buffering of the nutrients Supply of nutrients from soil colloids to the soil solution is your buffering of the solution or buffering of the nutrients. Now, base saturation. So after cation mobility of the nutrient, cation exchange of the nutrients, the third factor is base saturation in soil. It will affect supply of nutrients, supply of mineral nutrients. So how it affects, let us see. So base saturation is the percentage of the total cation exchange capacity occupied by calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. This is very well known to each one of you. The base saturation is higher in soils, arid region than the humid region. In humid regions, such kind of cations are leached down actually due to high rainfall, but it does not happen in case of arid soils or arid regions. So in the arid regions, base saturation is higher. The increased base saturation in soils increases the availability of cation. Higher the base saturation, higher is the availability of cations. In general, higher the base saturation, higher, okay. The ability of soil to resupply iron to the soil solution from different sources. So now we deal with buffering capacity with respect to nutrients. So how much is the ability of the soil to resupply the nutrients or ions back into the soil solution from different sources? So it can be defined as buffering capacity of the nutrients can be defined as the ratio of the concentration of adsorbed ion and solution ion. This is the proportion or ratio of adsorbed adsorbed ions to the solution ion, to the ions in the solution. A particular ion, you can see, you can work for individual ion also. You can work for group of cations or group of anions also. So it is just the concentration of the adsorbed ion on the colloids and ions in the solution. Soils may vary in buffering capacity. Some may have more and some may have less. Buffering capacity is resupply of nutrients into the soil solution from the colloids. So generally, buffering capacity in soil increases with increasing cation exchange capacity. More cation exchange capacity, more buffering capacity, higher organic matter and other solid constituent. The buffering capacity of Montmorillonite is the clay, dominant clay, and with high organic matter in soil. So it is greater than that of kaolinite or low organic matter soils. So there may be two situations. In one situation, you have Montmorillonite clay plus high organic matter. So it will have, such condition will have more buffering capacity than kaolinite plus low organic matter. Since cation exchange capacity increases with increasing clay content, fine texture soil will have high buffering capacity than the coarse texture soils. If exchangeable potassium decreases by plant uptake, this is just an example, or leaching, the capacity of the soil to buffer solution K is lower in sandy soil. It is lower in sandy soils. The nutrient may become deficient and potassium ion fertilizer will be needed to increase the exchangeable potassium and correct the potassium deficiency. Addition of phosphorus fertilizer will increase adsorbed phosphate with some S2PO4, this orthophosphate monovalent may also precipitate a solid phosphorus compound, both of which contribute the phosphorus BC in soils. It is evident that buffering capacity is a very important soil property that strongly influences soil nutrient availability. So this buffering capacity understanding is very, very important for the students. For more details, you can see I just copied from this soil fertility and fertilizer. So part of this lecture is taken from soil fertility and fertilizer, and part has been taken from nature and properties of the soil. So for more knowledge or detailed understanding, you must see that part from these sources. So thus it is evident that buffering capacity is a very important soil property that strongly influences nutrient availability. If the same rate of fertilizer phosphorus is added to both soils, to two kinds of soils, the resulting solution S2PO4 concentration will be greater in the sandy soil than in the clay soil because buffering capacity of clay is more than buffering capacity of the sand. Actually, when you add phosphatic fertilizer or any fertilizer, the clay soil will have higher cation exchange capacity. So it will absorb more of the phosphatic fertilizer applied by farmer. However, in sandy soils, buffering capacity is less than the clay soil, and it will absorb less of the phosphate applied to its exchangeable sites or to the colloids. And most of them will go to the solution, to the soil solution. Therefore, the greater in the sandy soil than in the clay soil because of high buffering capacity. This clay soil is a kind of miser or greedy soil. Greedy soil. It does not want immediately give things to the solution. And sandy soils are more liberal. They easily donate because they cannot retain it. So they donate it to the soil solution. So you can see if the same rate of fertilizer phosphorus is added to both two kind of soils, the resulting solution S2PO4 concentration will be greater in the sandy soil than in the clay soil because of high buffering capacity of clay than in sand. Alternatively, if we wanted to establish the same solution phosphorus concentration in both soils, then more phosphatic fertilizer should be applied to clay soil than to the sandy soil because buffering capacity of clay is more than the buffering capacity of sand. So you need to analyze, retain this kind of reasoning are very, very important. Now, next factor is soil pH that affects the supply of nutrients. So I need not to explain much of role of soil pH in nutrient availability. Many of you know that what happens when your soils have acidic pH or alkaline pH. Then is your soil organic matter. Soil organic matter affects the supply of the nutrients by two ways. One is direct, it directly supplies the nutrients to the soil, and second is by improving the physical, chemical, and biological properties of the soil, it indirectly increases the supply of the nutrients. So organic matter, you can remember two roles. One is direct role, other is indirect role. So availability of nutrients from soil organic matter depends upon microbial activity. So actually microbial activity and organic matter levels are interrelated, are very much dependent upon each other. If you have higher organic matter, you will have more microbial activity. If a soil is showing more microbial activity, that means it has more organic matter. So they are definitely more closely interrelated, organic matter content and microbial activity in soil. Important microbial processes, I think you know, are decomposition, denitrification. There are several processes that are affected by microbes or that are mediated by the microbes. When fresh plant or other organic residues are subject to fairly rapid decomposition by the microbes. Humus component of soil organic matter resists microbial degradation and maintains optimum soil physical conditions. So here, what I want to show you is that mineralization of organic matter will supply nutrients and it will increase the microbial activity in the soil. So in virgin soils, the organic matter content is determined by soil texture, topography, and climatic conditions. Organic matter is higher in cooler than in warmer climate. You know, in cooler climate, there is low temperature because of that lower rate of decomposition, lower microbial activity. These differences are related to reduced potential for organic matter oxidation in cooler temperature. Soil organic matter content is greater in fine texture soils. These are general information on soil organic matter and fine textures than in coarse texture soils. And it is related to biomass production. Now question comes, why clay soils have more organic matter than sandy soils? The reason is generally there is high biomass production in fine texture soils because of improved soil water and nutrient storage and reduced organic matter oxidation potential. Means if you compare clay soil and organics and sandy soils, so organic matter levels are higher in clay soil than in sandy soils, mainly because of improved soil water and nutrient storage capacity of the soil, and also reduced organic matter oxidation potential. If you have identical conditions of climate, temperature, rainfall, everything, then in sandy soil, you will have faster decomposition of organic matter than the clay soils, mainly because of better circulation of oxygen or better aeration in those soils. Soil organic matter contents are higher under grassland vegetation than under forest cover. Uh, these relations are generally true to well-drained soils. Under poor drainage, aerobic decomposition is impeded and organic residues build up. So this is knowledge, general knowledge about soil organic matter. And you know, in grassland, vegetation is generally confined mostly to the subtropical or temperate kind of climate, where the rate of decomposition are slower. So because of that, and in forest areas, mainly tropical rainforest or that kind of forest areas, you get higher rate of decomposition of organic matter. Of course, the production of organic matter is very high, but at the same time, decomposition rates are also high, mainly because of high temperature and higher water availability. And then soil organic matter comprises organic material of all stages. Crop residues are added. They supply nutrients. The relatively, and this is microbial activity. Microbial activity decompose the microbes. You can go through these slides and how these microbes act on organic matter. There are different paths or processes. In some class, I explained you about one picture about mineralization and humification. These two processes happen together. When organic matter decompose, there are two different pathways. One pathway produces minerals, other pathway produces humus. So, and both the pathways, role of microbes, soil microbes is very, very important. Now you see this nutrient complex in organic matter, and through mineralization, it is converted into inorganic nutrients, and vice versa by immobilization. Now, in the decomposition process, soil organic matter gives nutrients in inorganic forms, and these nutrients will go to the soil solution, and these nutrients can go back again to the microbes also. So if there are insufficient nutrients in soil organic matter to meet the microbial demand, then the inorganic ions from soil solution will be immobilized into the microbial cells. So immobilization and mineralization is there. And I believe that you have sufficient knowledge of this subject. The microbial activities and rate of release of nutrients from soil organic matter is affected by CN ratios, soil organic matter, soil moisture, soil temperature. Now, the next is, so you have seen the role of organic matter in supply of mineral nutrients, soil organic matter. Now, physical conditions of the soils are also important in supplying the nutrients. So poorly structured soil increases the soil erosion by runoff, losing valuable nutrients, soil microbes, and organic matter. So physical structure of the soil can be deteriorated by soil erosion, which also takes away the nutrients and organic matter. So also soil erosion decreases the cation exchange capacity, and this poor soil structure results in poor growth and poor microbial growth also, poor growth of the roots and poor microbial growth in the soil. And also water retention or water relations are not good. Water relations are not good, means the storage capacity of water can be reduced in such soils. So optimal level of soil water means a higher level of most nutrients in soil, leading to improved nutrient uptake by diffusion and root. So whatever I want to say is here is that the physical degradation of the soil will result in poor nutrient supply to the plants. Adequate moisture also increases the rate of soil organic matter decomposition, because moisture will be less because of physical degradation of the soil. Poorly drained soil, this can be another extreme under physical degradation. The distorted soil structure, because of distorted soil structure, you can have some waterlogging conditions also. Poorly drained soils increase the solubility of minerals, making them sometimes toxic to the plants. So some nutrients may become available at the toxic level. Nitrates can be lost by denitrification, and low moisture can result in reduced nutrient uptake also. Not just availability, but uptake will also be affected. So this is all for today's lecture. I request Pulomi to stop the recording. So this was quite interesting topic, and if you have your questions, you can ask your questions.